The candidates running for Rockwall Independent School District Place 5 are here in the bunker today for some straight talk in hopes of winning your vote. Rockwall County conservatives, I'm Bunker Bob Steinhagen, and this is the Bunker Bob Show. Welcome back, my fellow conservatives, to another candidate forum. This time it's a focus on education with the two candidates vying for RISD School Board, incumbent Jim White, who is being challenged by current teacher Nikki Harris. As with all candidate forums here in the bunker, my goal is to give each candidate the opportunity to put their best foot forward, which is why, as I have always done, the candidates received a copy of the questions before they had to decide to participate. Through the magic of video, we create the illusion that both candidates are in studio at the same time. However, each candidate sat down with me for a one-on-one interview, which is edited together to create the illusion of a face-to-face candidate forum. This is why I will ask follow-up questions of one candidate but not the other, and why the candidates do not respond to one another's answers. In fact, the first time either candidate will have heard answers from their opponent will be after this show has been broadcast. Now, I never place time limits on candidates' answers. However, when they go long, and sometimes they do, we will edit it for time. Since most of the candidates are not used to being on camera, as they're not professional politicians, in fact, the office for which they are running are actually unpaid positions. Before we begin, I let every candidate know that they can re-answer or restate anything they say, because the purpose of today's show is to allow them to be the best that they can be. So, let me introduce the candidates for today's show, and I will begin by introducing incumbent candidate Jim White. Born in Memphis, Tennessee, Jim and his family moved to Rockwall in 1983 when Jim was in the 8th grade. He graduated from Rockwall High School in 1988 and was a member of Rockwall High School's last team to win the 4A Texas State Football Championship, where he was all-district and all-state. Jim attended East Texas State University in Commerce, Texas, now Texas A&M Commerce, on a football scholarship, where in 1990 he helped lead the Lions to their first berth into the NCAA Division II playoffs, and then again in 1991. He was a unanimous all-conference center in both 1990 and 1991, and second-team All-American in 1991. In 2019, Jim was inducted into the Texas A&M Commerce Athletic Hall of Fame. What a great honor, man. That's really cool. It was quite an honor. I bet it was. After school, Jim began work in the commercial truck tire industry. For 6 years, he worked for Southern Tire and Mart, a company with centers and retread plants across the South and West, and was moved from Rockwall to Laredo and Austin, Texas as general manager. In 1999, Jim went to work with Bridgestone America Tire Corporation, where he has been for 22 years and counting. Most importantly, Jim and his wife Katie live in Chandler's Landing and will celebrate 4 years of marriage on Cinco de Mayo. Wow, congratulations.
It's easy to remember.
Yeah, I guess it is.
Yes, it is.
That's true. Now, he has two daughters. One is a sophomore at Rockwall High School and two stepchildren. Both his mother and in-laws also live in Rockwall. Jim has been active in Rockwall for quite some time. He has served as secretary of the Rockwall Republican Men's Club, the Rockwall Housing Authority Board, the board of the Rockwall Education Foundation, and has been a member of the RISD School Board since 2013. Jim, it is great to have you here today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. And I'm looking forward to our interview.
I am too. Now let me introduce Nikki Harris, who has been a teacher for 31 years. She has taught everything from 1st to 8th grade. She has taught in a 2-room schoolhouse and in the inner city of Dallas. The last 20 years of her career have been with Rockwall Independent School District. Nikki is the second daughter of Colonel and Mrs. Harris. Nikki grew up on different military bases around the country and in Germany. She has traveled extensively throughout her life, and when it came time to settle down, the Harris family chose the beautiful city of Rockwall. They have been here for over 30 years and love this community. Nikki has a 24-year-old daughter, Kirsten, who is a 2016 graduate of Rockwall Heath High School. So Nikki, it is great to have you here today.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, let's get started. The first question is an easy one, and that is, why are you running for RISD School Board? Nikki?
Well, as my bio said, I've been in this district for 20 years. I have chosen to retire this school year, but that part of me deep down in my heart just doesn't want to let the school district go.
Okay, that makes sense.
I'm still here for my kids. I'm still here for the children of Rockwall and the parents of Rockwall, and I thought what better way than to try for the school board, because I know how wonderful the school district is, but I do know there are some changes we need to make.
Very good. Well, so Jim, why are you running for re-election to the RISD School Board?
Well, I'm glad you asked. Well, first I want to say thank you, Bob, for having me on. I think what you do for the voters of Rockwall is important, and the questions that you ask are pertinent.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for having me on.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure. Well, I've served 9 years on the board, and I've truly enjoyed seeing the successes that have come from our hard work that we've done on the board. We've done a lot of good things.
It's an incredible school district to
Absolutely.
begin with. I mean, that says a lot that the values of our home are going up, because it's usually a direct correlation with how the schools are.
Absolutely, they kind of feed each other. So
they do.
The schools help with the real estate industry, and
it's a good and bad thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It really is.
Yeah.
But no, I've enjoyed seeing the successes that the students have had inside the classroom, but also outside the classroom in athletics, fine arts, culinary arts. In fashion design, we've had national champions, state champions, district champions, in just about every aspect. I've seen great successes. I have been through a change in superintendents. I've also been through the 2015 bond, which I felt was a great learning experience for me.
I'll bet it was, yeah.
We have just now passed almost $500 million bond to build additional schools and make some improvements to certain things within our district. And I feel like, having served on the district facilities and construction committee since the 2015 bond, that I have some unique experience that I think that will translate into this current bond. I had the pleasure of working with Chris Cooney on that board in the 2015 bond, and he was a civil engineer, or is a civil engineer. And having served with him, I learned a lot. So, and between the two of us, I believe we saved a tremendous amount of money for the taxpayers of Rockwall, Texas. And so I think I'd bring that unique skill to the board, and I'd like to see that throughout this current bond that we're just now in the beginning parts of planning and putting together. So
very good.
That's why I'd like to continue on.
Very good. The next question is, do you have a faith, and how will it or does it guide you if elected or re-elected? Jim?
Well, I'm a Christian. I believe in the Holy Trinity, so God, the Father, and the Holy Spirit. So I've been a Christian my whole life, and through the teachings that I've learned from the Bible, and especially through Jesus Christ, I have a filter, or a lens, I guess you would say, that I see the world through. I try to live by the principles that Jesus Christ taught us in the Bible, so in the New Testament. That is an important part of who I am. So I'm not a perfect man, and nobody is, but
right.
I do my best to use those principles and to make good decisions.
Very good. Nikki?
I do have a faith. I am Christian. How it guides me is my parents raised me to follow the golden rule. I try to do, what's good for how you treat people and what's good for everybody. And I think that's what I'm going to look for in the school board. Is I'm going to listen to the parents and the kids and take it from there and find out what they want, and just try to do the best I can.
Very good. So the next question is, in your view, what are the best attributes of Rockwall schools, and what do you see as the greatest areas for improvement? Nikki?
Well, I believe that the best thing about Rockwall schools is that we are preparing our kids not only for college, but also for the workforce. We have different paths that the kids can follow in high school for the different career choices they want to go through, but we are also preparing them that if they don't choose college as their next step, that they are ready to go into the workforce and they are prepared for that.
So important.
It's absolutely important. But so besides that, you know, we're just a district that has that hometown, small town neighborhood feel, and I think that's a great thing about Rockwall ISD. What we need to improve is we need to keep and retain qualified teachers, because the teachers are the backbone of our children's education. And I feel that in this day and time, a lot of teachers are leaving, including myself, the teaching profession. So we need to be retaining teachers.
So why are teachers leaving?
In talking with my fellow teachers, the number one reason teachers are leaving is, you know, not what's happened with the coronavirus and COVID-19 and everything. That added to it. I think the bottom line was it started before that. COVID just helped fester everything. But it's the administration and what stresses they're putting on teachers, I believe, is the number one thing.
In Rockwall?
In Rockwall.
Okay. And what can be done to improve it, you think?
Put me on the school board.
Okay. Hey, easy enough answer. Very good. Jim, how would you answer this one?
Well, I would say one of the best assets we have is the teachers and the staff. We have a great administration. We have great teachers and great staff. And from that, we see great things happening, and you see them all throughout our district. So that's the first thing that I would say that we have. Secondly, parental involvement in this community is enormous. And we know, if you've been around education at all, that the involvement of the parents in the child's educational career is very important, and it leads to success. So in Rockwall, we're very fortunate that we have parents that are very, very involved in their child's education. And lastly, I would say that the Gene Burton College and Career Academy has brought a new twist and some excellent opportunities for students that that may or may not go on to college. I think that they walk away with certificates and with training and things that are going to be life skills or commercial skills that they can sell. That'll make things really good for them going forward. So if they want to go into nursing, or if they want to go into work as an EMT, they're prepared and they come out with a certificate and they're on their way. So I believe that is a huge asset that Rockwall has done over the last several years, and I think that it's one of our best attributes. Yeah,
I love the fact that it includes things like welding, and I mean these are people who make a lot of money without a college degree. I mean, you're really setting the kids up in Rockwall for success in so many ways. I question, just out of curiosity, how much longer will it be before ROTC comes to Rockwall?
The sooner the better. I know we have an application in already.
Yeah.
We're waiting for some approvals, and they look at certain things before they approve it, but it is in the works. And so if everything goes according to plan, it shouldn't be that long. It's usually a year or two process because there's a lot to it, but that process has been started, so I'm looking forward to seeing that be brought in.
Fantastic. Thanks so much.
By the way, we have a great group of veterans that live in this community, and I think they could absolutely be wonderful mentors for those students that come along. So I think this is going to be a great opportunity.
Yeah, and that's specifically why I think about that, because I do think that we have so many veterans who do want to give back to the community, and what a great way for them to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what about areas of improvement?
Well, I look at this from a positive aspect. One of the things that I think we have the greatest opportunity in for improvement is that we could add additional trades at the George.
At the Gene Burton Center?
Yeah. I did that last night when I was going over my notes.
That's awesome.
Well, at the Gene Burton College and Career Academy, I feel like we could add more of the trades, because not everyone wants to go to college.
Right.
Not everyone needs to go to college.
Exactly.
And we want to set those kids up for success. So I think, auto mechanics, we have welding, but heating and air, electricity, those kind of things, I think those will be good additions. And I'd like to see that done, and I'd like to encourage it.
Man, fantastic.
So, I think that's the way of the future.
Yeah, I love that. Well, is there a specific issue or set of issues that you wish to focus on if elected or re-elected? Jim?
Well, I'd like to oversee the bond spending. again, I mentioned that before, and I think it's very important that we have a watchdog. I want the taxpayers of the community that are funding what we do to feel like they're getting their money's worth in what we spend, and that it's done responsibly. I guess you could say that the juice is worth the squeeze. I want to make sure
I love that.
That's the way it goes. So that's one thing that I want to do. Again, I mentioned bringing in additional trades. I'd like to encourage the administration to consider that and look for opportunities to do that. So I think those two things are positive ones. But I'm also going to challenge the administration on discipline at the high schools. We've had some incidents and things like that have caused problems, and I feel like we need to come up with some innovative approaches or different approaches to addressing that, and I intend to encourage and to continue encouraging our administrators and our superintendent to find solutions to that problem.
Why do you think those problems are starting to increase?
Well, that's difficult to say.
Yeah.
We've gone through 2 years of COVID, and so there's a lot of kids acting out that have not been as social as they would have been in the past, and it gets them into trouble. And society in general has become more violent, and the things that we see on television and things that we see everywhere are that way. So it's really hard to speak to one thing or another.
Yeah.
But I believe that, but coming from a different perspective than what we've done for the last 50 years would be a good idea. And I'm not saying that our district doesn't do a good job, but I would like to see us branch out and expand what we're doing and look at new ideas.
Very good.
I think it's important, and I know it's a concern of a lot of parents.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Nikki, how about you?
I have two basic things I would like to focus on. One is the safety of our children, and it's not from people coming in from outside, but more of the bullying and the disruptions that are happening in the classrooms caused by fellow students. I have experienced, and my friends have experienced, kids coming up to us saying, I can't learn, I don't understand this because so-and-so's taking too much time, or so-and-so's being too loud, or so-and-so's, So I would like to address making sure that we are protecting those instructional minutes, and we are making sure that the kids that want to be there and are there for an education are getting their education, and that our attention isn't being taken away from all of the students and focused on a few that are causing disruptions. Along with those instructional minutes, my second thing I want to focus in on is protecting the instructional minutes in our classrooms. As a teacher, I will, after the STAR test, have taken and administered 24 different assessments in my classroom. And 24 different assessments in my classroom is a month of teaching. That's 24 days of my class that my kids were not being taught, but were being assessed by things that, when I've talked with other teachers, and myself included, we view as repetitive tests. And so I think we need to, we are professional teachers, and I think we need to spend more time dealing with instruction and instructing our kids and teaching our kids and helping our kids, and cut out some of the assessments that just are not necessary.
So these assessments are, I'm guessing, they're instituted by the RISD, not the state?
Both. We have some that are required by the state. STAR is required by the state. They have one that's a beginning, middle of the year test that we have that they've implemented due to COVID, that we have to follow. But our own district does add on their own curriculum-based assessments and their own, district assessments for unit tests and stuff that take so much time away from our classes. And I do believe it's important that teachers assess their kids. We need to know where they are, but I don't think we need to do it to this extent, because too much time is being taken away from the learning.
Very good. Very good. What do you believe is the key to attracting and keeping high-quality faculty and staff in Rockwall schools, and what might be done to improve this? Nikki?
I feel that having competitive pay is the number one thing, that we need to be more competitive with our districts around us. I do have friends who have chosen to teach in Richardson and Louisville because the pay is better there, even though they live here in Rockwall. And so I think we need to, be as competitive as the other districts in our area. Rockwall has done a good job on giving us some bonuses and some retentive pay recently, but I do feel that boosting the pay would definitely bring more teachers to our district and hopefully keep the ones that we have.
Okay, and so my natural question is, what is that pay? What should that be?
Well, personally, I do not know directly offhand. I know that my pay right now, personally, is just above $60,000, and I've taught for 31 years. And I know that in some of our districts around us, that new teachers are being offered pay that's pretty close to what I'm getting, and then added bonuses for signing with that district kind of puts them very close to what I'm being paid.
So are you talking about Dallas? Because Dallas, I mean, you look at different school districts. I mean, obviously, for instance, private school teachers make a fraction of what public school teachers make.
Correct.
And so, but they're much happier because of the environment that they're in. And Rockwall Schools has a pretty good environment, it seems like. And so I'm not an educator, so I don't know. But from what I understand, it's a great place to work. So if you may get more pay in Dallas, but it's not a great place to work compared to Rockwall.
Well, I spent 9 years in Dallas, so I don't know if I could say it wasn't a great place to
Okay.
work because I was there.
Well, then why'd you
in
come over
Dallas.
here?
Because I had a daughter who was starting school, and I wanted to put her in the best school district I could come up with. And when I looked in the area for students, Rockwall was the place to go.
Yeah.
And that's why I brought my daughter Kirsten over to Rockwall, and she started kindergarten at Jones Elementary, went to Utley Middle School, graduated from Heath High School.
Wonderful, and a great experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Wonderful experience.
Okay. All right, very good. Jim, how about you?
Well, that's the question of the hour for
Isn't it?
just about every district.
Yeah, it is.
So first off, teachers have gone through a very, very difficult time the last 2 years.
Yeah.
They've been asked to take on projects like going into virtual learning with very, very little time considering what they had to tackle. And it was something that was necessary at the time. As we learn more about COVID, things change and so forth. But at that period of time, they were pushed in a position to learn that, and that was difficult. We have excessive testing that is required. It takes away from instruction time, and is difficult.
Yeah.
But teachers like to teach.
Yeah.
They don't particularly care that much for testing, although it does give them some validation on what they've done in the art of teaching, and it's validation for them in that respect, and they get a sense of pride of seeing their students succeed. But I'd like to see those obstacles removed, and I'd like to see us improve on what we do in regards to addressing COVID. I'd like to see us push the state for removing more testing. But aside from that, I believe having competitive salaries for teachers, especially with our comparable districts, is very important. That's always a challenge. We have to look at districts around us to figure out. And then funding, of course, is always an issue, which is usually a complicated formula that comes from the state that nobody really has a full handle on. I don't care how long you've served on the board, there's something you learn new about what they're doing in one way or another, but it's difficult to get your hands around all the tentacles of how we're funded. And also, 85% of the money that of our budget in maintenance and operations makes up salaries already. So there's a challenge, but I do believe it's something that we need to address. And then one other thing in regards to teacher salaries is that we focus a lot, and I say we, people on boards and in the education industry, they focus a lot on starting teacher pay. Mm-hmm. But as teachers move into their career, there's not as much focus on the 5 to 10, 10 to 15, 15 to 20, and beyond.
Yeah.
What are the incentives for them? We focus a lot on the starting pay, but as they advance, rewarding these teachers for being loyal and for staying around and continuing what they do, they become better teachers. They become, and it shows that they're very dedicated to their craft. So I believe looking at that and the way we've gone about it as Rockwall ISD, I believe that's been neglected to a certain point. And I know that other board members have kind of joined with me in saying we need to look at that differently to make sure we're doing the right thing for teachers that have that kind of experience and to keep them. So bring them in with a competitive salary, but also look at how we maintain to keeping them competitive with our competitors out there that are comparable to Rockwall ISD. I think that's the way we do it. We've done some incentives and things like that I think have been effective and very much appreciated by the staff. But I don't think that's the way forward. I think making sure that we have good pay, we're competitive, and we continue to grow as they grow. So,
you actually talked about the fact that the state is mandating so much, and the problems in education typically are not at the local level. It's typically at the higher levels of mandates that come down that make it very difficult to teach. And when we think about the amount of time that students are actually in classroom, minus the summer and the vacations, the spring breaks, you're looking at maybe eight and a half months of actual school, and then almost a month's worth of testing. So you're, you've cut that down to 7.5 months. So when you think about what the RISD school board could do to influence that, what do you think is the best way to do that?
I think we lobby our state representatives and our state senator, and I think that
that's Bob Hall. And so has he been helpful in doing? And helping you guys?
Tremendous amount of respect for Bob Hall. I think he does a great job, and I'm very happy with what he does. I think the board needs to be a little bit more intentional in how we express what really needs to happen in regards to testing. We talk about funding and those kind of things, but the testing stuff is off the charts, and we do need to address that. Students, we take assessments that are required, like STAR and so forth, but there's a lot of other assessments that are required, and the taxpayer wants to know they're getting their money's worth. So that's what the STAR test is really about. Are we preparing the kids? And they have a standardized test for that, but.
Does the district have its own tests that it implements?
Teachers need validation that people have an understanding, their students have an understanding of the lessons that they're teaching that work their way up to the STAR test.
Yeah.
And the state has given us the TEKS, which are Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills, and it's a very, very comprehensive list of things that must be taught in the classroom. So teachers need that feedback. But any additional stuff that is pushed on teachers, I think, is overkill.
Okay.
And they have a tough job.
They do.
They really do.
Yeah.
And difficulties coming from every direction, from students, from parents, and then from the state, and then from policy and everything else. It's a difficult job. So anyway, I think that's something that we could do, and it would be a very good solution for our district in particular.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you so much.
Sure.
All right, the next question is there anything in the approved RISD budget that you disagree with or that you would like to see changed? Well, Jim, you're part of that, so how do you feel about it?
I think we have a pretty responsible budget. One of the things that I would like to see changed on it, and I spoke to this 10 years ago when I was not a board member, I went and spoke to the board in regards to outsourcing of our custodians. Those were community members that worked for our school, and a lot of them for extended periods of time. They were known in the community. They were the taxpayers in our community. And we outsourced that to a company with the understanding that we were going to save $500,000. And I can't verify that we did or didn't. At the time, and when I looked at it, I didn't see a way that we could possibly save $500,000. If we were saving it in purchasing, then we just need to be a better purchaser. But we're going to have the same people with the same hours. How's this going to work? And basically, it looks like it was coming from the people that are actually doing the work. And I feel like that I'd like to bring that in-house. I just would. And I think we'll know the people that are inside our schools a little bit better. Not that the company we have is not doing their vetting, but I'd like to see local people working in our schools that we know and they've gone through Rockwall ISD's extensive background checks and know who is working in our schools when our kids are there.
I wonder how many parents don't know that. I didn't know that. That's the first time I've ever heard that, so that's interesting.
I believe the company that we have is doing a good job of looking at the backgrounds, but I'd like to see, and we still have some people that worked before, but I'd like to see local people working in our schools. I just think it's a great opportunity. If you're not a teacher or you're not an administrator, your options for being employed by the district are limited to fewer items than what you'd like to see. And it is one of the largest, if not the largest, employer in the county. But I just think that it's an opportunity for us to bring community members into the district with a nice paying job that has great benefits and has a retirement. And unfortunately, those people, back when the board approved to outsource it, so I lost in my bid when I spoke to the board. But when they outsourced it, the people working for the district, a large amount of people lost those things. And I think it was a mistake at the time. Other board members may disagree with me, but that's my opinion.
I love the fact that you're not afraid to really kind of speak out. And you're probably one of the first candidates I've ever had who's an incumbent who's been willing to say, yeah, I don't agree with some of these decisions that have been made. And so it really speaks to your character. And I appreciate you talking straight.
I appreciate it.
It means a lot. Yeah, thank you. Nikki?
No, I looked at the budget the other day on the Rockwall ISD website just to get an idea for this question. There wasn't anything that I necessarily disapproved with or picked out that I thought was the wrong way to go. I do think that we need to make sure we are continuing to get technology into the kids of our hands of our students. We need to make sure that that part is addressed.
Is it happening?
It is happening.
Yeah.
I believe next year our kids are supposed to be, at least in the elementary, sometime during the school year, we'll be having more one-on-one technology. A little curious why it wasn't happening this year when we bought all those Chromebooks for COVID. But yes, they are improving that and they are bringing them in, but we just need to stay on top of technology because it's so ever-changing. And that is the way that our economy and country is going. We are going to be more and more technology-driven, hence all the technology you have in this room. And we need to make sure our kids are ready for going out and addressing those things.
Very good. Very good. Well, Republican voters overwhelmingly approved 10 ballot propositions that are intended to provide clear direction to and elevate accountabilities for all Republicans elected to public office. Now, even though a school board race is nonpartisan, I'd like to review the 3 propositions with you and get your thoughts. First was Proposition 4, which states Texas schools should teach students basic knowledge and American exceptionalism and reject critical race theory and other curricula that promote Marxist doctrine and encourage division based on creed, race, or economic status. Do you support this proposition, and do you believe that Rockwall schools are already doing this? Nikki?
Bottom line is critical race theory is not in the curriculum in Rockwall. So to me, that's not an issue right here in Rockwall ISD.
So you feel good about the curriculum as it stands today?
As it stands today with this proposition, yes, I think Rockwall's doing a great job with it.
Very good. Jim?
So I agree with the proposition, and I voted for it. I think school districts, and in particular Rockwall ISD, being a conservative community as it is, needs to focus on knowledge and skills. And also teach American history, which is exceptional. This is a country that people from all across the world are trying to come into and to become citizens of because of the benefits of living here and because of the freedoms that we have. And I think critical race theory focuses on problems and issues that we've had over time that we are adapting to continuously. Definitely not things that other countries are not dealing with. American exceptionalism is important to understand. We're a very generous country.
Yeah.
And our veterans have shed blood in World War II, and Vietnam, Afghanistan, and Iraq in the pursuit of freedom.
Yeah.
And whether there were mistakes or not, or whatever you might think, regardless, the intentions of America are usually the right intentions. And so I think we need to focus on that because America is an exceptional place. And I think anything that detracts from that is a mistake.
Do you think Rockwall is doing a good job at this time of not indoctrinating but teaching?
So there's nothing formal in our schools that would be considered CRT. But anything like CRT that we've had has been on a one-off basis. And so I think that finding these books that we had, I think we need to do a better job when we vet the packages of books that we buy for different grade age groups. I think we're going to be more cautious of that going forward, because we don't need to bring things in there that the community doesn't find acceptable. If there are instances where CRT is in our schools, it would be a one-off. We have 1,800 plus or minus teachers who do a wonderful job, but it would be a teacher's decision to bring something that would be controversial in there. And with 1,800 people, it's bound to happen here or there.
Yeah.
Teachers, are working to try to teach those children everything they can and look at it from a holistic view and so on and so forth, and especially when you get into social science or the social studies type stuff. But I think we do a good job overall of trying to explain the vision of the schools to our staff, because that's going to guide them in how they teach. And so we have nothing formal, but we need to continue to be vigilant.
And I think it really speaks to how important it is when it's not just school boards, but the State Board of Education, which is really the body that determines what textbooks are available, because they're the ones who set that. Why we need to be paying attention to those races as well.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I appreciate that. Well, next was Proposition 9, which states Texas parents and guardians should have the right to select schools, whether public or private, for their children, and the funding should follow the student. Do you support this proposition, and how do you believe this would impact Rockwall schools? Jim?
So it's a complicated issue.
It is.
Because we have a history. We have public schools that are established.
Yes.
And we pay for them through taxes and through property taxes and so on and so forth. I would love to see this. I would love for students to be able to go where they want to go and that their money follows them, because we are paying the taxes to fund those things. I would be for this if we really thought through all of the difficult things that we would have to figure out. One of those is or several of those are, how are we going to move students? We have buses and so forth. We have buildings that we built with public money that we have bonds and an obligation to pay for. Making sure that we're able to staff all these independent schools, and looking at it from a private school perspective, when they receive money that we consider public taxpayer money, are they going to have strings attached to that money from the state? Are they going to be required to teach the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills? Are they going to have to do the same testing that public schools are required to do, and so on and so forth? So there's a lot. UIL. You look at UIL and sports competitions. Are we going to now have recruiting in schools and all that kind of stuff? There are a lot of things that have to be worked out. You can even go to Title IX, where smaller schools may not have the facilities to ensure that male and female sports have the same amount of locker rooms and equipment and so on and so forth for their sports. Those are a lot of challenges that we'll face if we move forward with that. I'm all for letting the taxpayer make decisions and free people make decisions. I just think that with the obligations that we have at this point and some of the challenges that we would encounter, that it's important to make sure that we have gone through those and found solutions to those items.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Nikki?
In our country, we give our children free education through public schools.
It's not free.
And, well, it's taxpayers, yes.
Yeah.
But we give them this, this opportunity using their tax money to have a school. I do think that if a parent wishes to go to the private school route, that it should be on their wallet and their pocket. That's my
So you do not support school choice?
That's my own personal opinion. I do think the parents have a choice, and I think that if this is passed and everything works, I think it would improve our school district, because if we're having money taken away from the district because a person is going to have their children go to private school and the money is going to the private school, it's going to make Rockwall ISD buckle down and say, how do we get it so our parents aren't going to want to put their child in a private school?
Very good. Well, finally is Proposition 10, which reads, Texans affirm that our freedoms come from God and that the government should have no control over the conscience of individuals. So do you agree with this proposition, and how do you believe this applies to Rockwall schools? For instance, mask mandates, vaccine mandates, other things like that. Nikki?
I would say yes, I agree. I don't think the district should be saying whether a child should wear a mask. I think that's the parent's choice. They're the ones that need to feel comfortable sending their child to our school, and they're the ones that should be making the decision for their child.
Very good. Jim?
I totally agree with that. I don't like government standing on my rights. I don't think there's anybody that can make a better decision on the health of their child than the parent. If you want your child to wear a mask, I want you to feel free to wear a mask.
Sure.
But if you don't, you don't.
Right.
And I would never stand for a vaccine mandate in the school. Now, again, I don't have total control, but that would be my stance on it. There's not enough about these vaccines that makes me comfortable. So I'm not interested in forcing people to do something that they don't want to do. I think people have the right to make their decisions and to make decisions for their kids that are in their best interest. And I think anything outside of that is a mistake.
Yeah. You know, it is interesting. The role of government is to protect our rights, not to infringe upon them. And so I think that's where a lot of people felt as this mask mandate, not just in schools, but everywhere, felt was happening. But your position is that you're going to stand on protecting the rights of citizens, not infringing upon them.
Always.
Yeah.
I think that any politician that strays from that is forgetting what their job is to do.
Uphold the Constitution.
Absolutely.
Amen, brother. Thank you. As a school board member, who do you see as your primary constituent, and how do you intend to make sure that you are listening to their concerns? And by constituent, I mean parents, faculty, administrators, taxpayers. Who's your primary constituent? Jim?
The taxpayer is my primary constituent.
Yeah.
They're the ones that fund everything that we do in the public.
Even
schools.
the ones that don't have kids in the school?
Absolutely.
I love that. Yeah.
And it's just it is what it is. That's how the schools are funded. Do I agree with necessarily how we're funded? Not necessarily. I think there's other ways that we can do it, but that's where we are today.
Yeah.
And I think the taxpayer needs to be represented. But in doing that, you have to understand that the taxpayer has a vision for the schools, and our vision in this community is to have superior schools, which means that you must have dedicated, qualified, and exceptional teachers in order to create that vision and to do it. And they have to be properly compensated. So you have to consider some of these things that we've talked about before. So our schools exist for the sole reason of allowing our children to meet this vision and goal.
Yeah.
So you have to look at those things around totally from all angles, and that requires that we have teachers that are compensated and prepared and understand the vision of the district, and that want to be here and are dedicated to that vision. But the taxpayer, in the end, the taxpayer is the one that funds everything. And so that's community members, whether they're parents, they're teachers. Teachers are taxpayers, parents are taxpayers, grandparents are taxpayers, people that own property here that don't have any kids, they're taxpayers. And everybody should have a voice in how their money's spent.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you so much. Nikki?
My primary constituent is the parents.
Okay.
And I want to listen to what the parents want. It is their child that is going to our school district. I plan to, if I'm elected, I plan to make myself available to PTAs, PTOs, go and visit the different schools, listen to what the parents have to say. I welcome the parents coming to a school board meeting. You know, we are there to educate their children, and they're the number one person we need to listen to.
Very good. Well, RISD posts 9 outcomes that they hold as a goal for every graduate. If you were forced to choose just one and only one outcome from the list that best reflects your hope that every student might take away, which would it be and why? Nikki?
Well, it would have to be number one, the be college and or career ready. I just think when you go through that list, if our children are ready to either go on to the next step in education and go to colleges or just go right out into the workforce, when you look at the other things, they kind of fall in line with the top one. You know, if we are preparing our children, they are being resilient. We are giving them the best educational challenges. We are taking in, you know, critical thinking and problem solving. All of those things just wrap up into that number one top thing. And I think Rockwall ISD is doing a great job in getting our kids college and career ready. You know, we have those different pathways in the high school for different careers and getting them towards college. And, we're doing a great job when it comes to this.
Very good. Well, Jim, how about you?
Okay, well, I would say that we demonstrate resilience to navigate adversity and educational challenges. I mean, that's what we want. We want a superior education. We want kids to come out prepared for what they're going to face in the future, with the skills to look at a situation and to look at it from different angles and to come up with the best solution. And those things are what people pay for when you get a job.
Yeah.
So, I think that is the most important thing. You can't critically think without having an education. Your critically thinking takes some wisdom and experience. So that's the primary thing. I'd like to see kids go through our school system and leave with the ability to be successful in whatever their next step is, be it college, be it going into the workforce, be it going to a trade school. I'd like to see them set up so when they walk into their next thing that they're prepared to go. And I think teaching them that way and using that as the focus is the proper thing for our students.
Very good. Very good. Well, I hope that this was helpful for you, and I appreciate the candidates for their willingness to talk straight with me, because these are some tough questions. But I want to give each one of them the opportunity to speak directly to you about why they are the best person for your vote come Election Day. And so with that, Jim, take it away.
So I'd like to thank you again, Bob, for having me today. I hope that I've done a good job of explaining who I am and how I see the world and the lens of which I see the world. And if I've done that, then I want the people that vote for me to be confident that they know when difficult situations arise, whether it comes from in the school and curriculum, or if it's from policies and so forth, or outside of the school that are society issues. When they come before the board, that you're confident in knowing where I stand on these issues. I'm not an empty vessel. I am a representative, and I want to be your representative on the board. And so I asked for your vote for Rockwall Board of Trustees, Place 5. Thank you very much.
Nikki?
Thank you. My number one thing that I want parents to take away from this is that I am a teacher, and I have been there in the classroom with your students. I'm the old school conservative teacher, and I want to be there for the parents and the students of this district. I may have chosen to retire, but I still want to serve my community, and I think this is the best possible way. So please vote for Nikki Harris for seat 5.
Well, I hope you came away from today's show with a better understanding of where each candidate stands on issues that are important to you. And if that's the case, please hit the like button or punch the rumble key. If you have more questions of them or wish to know more about their campaigns, I've posted links to their websites in the description of today's show. Now, RISD races are at large, which means that in addition to this race, you'll also see Place 4 on the ballot, which is an open seat between Stan Britton and Lee Harvey. So be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification button on either YouTube or Rumble so that you can be notified when candidate forums and broadcasts are posted. But Place 4 is already been posted, so be sure and check back to that if you haven't already. Now, it's important to remember to turn out for local elections like these because turnout is typically abysmal, which means that a small percent of the population in Rockwall County will decide this race, and is why your vote is so important in these local elections. Now, you're watching this because you want to be an informed voter, so be sure to share this program with your friends and neighbors who can vote in Rockwall County. Don't forget that Election Day is Saturday, May 7th, and early voting begins on Monday, April 25th through Tuesday, May 3rd. So until next time, I'm Bunker Bob Steinhagen, looking forward to seeing you at the polls. Blessings.